YouTubers? This is Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. Today I'm going to be reacting to Kwame Brown's video where he is reacting to Iman Shumpert's comments regarding Stephen A. Smith, as well as his own thoughts on some things as well. He essentially said that a lot of things that Iman Shumpert said were the same things that Kwame has been saying in regards to Stephen A. Smith. And, essentially he was saying, Iman Shumpert was that Stephen A. Smith will say things, and you'll be having a good day as an NBA player, as an athlete, going to shoot around, going to practice or what have you, or doing something, and then next thing you know, Stephen A. Smith can make an inflammatory comment or something that is slandering you or disrespecting you, and it makes immediate headlines. And Stephen A. Smith has too much influence at this point to where he can affect Black players' NBA contracts and professional sports overall, and affect their contracts. And so, he said Iman Shumpert said he didn't know what would happen if Stephen A. Smith ever came up to him in his face. And Kwame basically was saying everything now is about your image and your likeness. Who's going to buy your shoes? Who's going to buy your jerseys? Who's going to support the endorsements that you have on your commercials and everything else? That also is going to impact contracts and, how long your longevity is going to be in the NBA and with various NBA teams and so forth. And he feels that Stephen A. Smith also, in his opinion, is way too soft on white America and takes out all of his grievances against Black people and specifically Black men. Kwame said, quote unquote, that Stephen A. Smith has a hard-on for Kyrie Irving because he's just been nonstop about the Kyrie Irving stuff since inception. And basically confirmed the tea that Carcino spilled, which was that Stephen A. Smith was a nobody before the show with Jalen Rose, and he was basically on his way out to be done for good once again. And originally it was supposed to be Jalen, that had first take, because if you guys remember, Jalen was the one that kept becoming a guest star on what the old show was called, which was Cold Pizza with Skip Bayless and everything else, and he was supposed to be getting a show, and then somebody else ended up having that other seat across from Skip Bayless, but essentially he said Stephen A. Smith became a shot jock and basically was saying anything that was negative about Black players to gain attention, to gain notoriety, to go viral for various things. And, there was that one time that he said something about Black women or about women overall. And I remember it because I think it was back when it was during the 2016 NBA Finals, the Cavs against the Warriors. And I think he's referencing when Ayesha Curry was tweeting about, the game possibly being rigged and all this and that with the refs. And he basically was trying to tell Ayesha that she needs to, quote unquote, stay in her lane, stay in her place, like LeBron's wife. It was some quote around that, it was insane. And there was tons of backlash. He had to issue an apology. I can't remember if he got suspended or not, but it was a huge deal. And since then, he does not address anything about the Black women or women in general on his show, because that was just completely out of bounds. And I was surprised that he even said something like that, considering he was, grew up with all women. So then after, Stephen A. Smith is being famous for essentially, saying all these disrespectful things about Black men and Black players, now all of a sudden he gets to go on these recruiting trips and get to go to see, the top, alleged number one draft pick that'll be a Black man for the NBA, or see, the top guy that's in college or, coming out of high school or whatever, and gets to talk to them and gets to have those exclusives. But then Kwame also said, with the evolution of Stephen A. Smith has also come, other changes that have happened in the NBA, which is, before you could just be one and done. Before that, you could have, entered the league, of course, in high school. Now you have the one and done. Now you have the G League, which is a lot more controlled now. And so he essentially calls Stephen A. Smith, quote unquote, a daddy boy, and how he is a great asset to white America, because essentially he says that, they basically tell him what to say. And he then Kwame says, quote unquote, that, Stephen A. Smith is a script reading hoe, and I lost it. Not a script reading hoe. Oh my gosh. And how he is doing the bidding of white people. And essentially, Stephen A. Smith, because he's making so much money for ESPN, he can't really, argue racism in that from the white executive's perspective. He's escaping racism because he's black, and because of the fact that he is in certain groups and organizations that gives him power, that gives him influence, that gives him a certain level of appearance to make it look as it seemed that, he's getting all of these opportunities, that he is not being discriminated against, that he is not, losing opportunities, to somebody else, that he is not experiencing certain things in the workplace, that basically he is, getting all of these opportunities. But the issue that Kwame has is he pretends to be down with the brothers, but he can't hoop with the brothers. And he called him a punk. And, basically made fun of the fact that he couldn't make the basketball team, and that he talks trash like he's a lady. And also, if they were playing in the park, a pickup game or whatever, he would not be picked. He would be the water boy. He would be the Gatorade dude. Or they would punk him and give him a wedgie and take his chucks. Kwame was hilarious today. Absolutely hilarious. Oh my gosh. And so, essentially now, he basically said Stephen A. Smith went from being somebody who was extremely quiet, who you never heard from, who, wasn't, this loud and outward personality that he is now. But now all of a sudden that he's making all this money for ESPN, and he is following the script to, disrespect, destroy, and diminish the black men. Now all of a sudden you are quote unquote loud and proud because quote unquote white daddy protects you now, and tears anything down that is masculine, that is black, that is anything that would hinder the process of black people. So, and then, of course, he said, once more how obsessed he is with Kyrie Irving, and Kwame called him an SOB, and it was just hilarious. It was just so funny. But he's basically saying, how can you come for these athletes and, come for their alleged contracts and how much their contracts are signed for, but you don't know the nuances of those contracts and what all it entails and how much money somebody has. And, essentially he was saying how I thought you cared about mental illness and how that affects people. And so, with the Kyrie Irving stuff, and he had made that comment, again or whatever, like basically coming for him. And he was saying, would you want that for your healthcare professionals? Would you want your healthcare professionals every time they see you and you have like the same issue and they're like, again, you're back again? Is that professional? Is that appropriate? And so, then Kwame Brown like did this moment where he was trying to translate like a quote unquote white zaddy for why Stephen A. Smith is the way he is, and basically saying from their perspective, from these white executives' perspectives, that they pay Stephen A. Smith a lot of money and we don't want him to take time off. We want him to be a workhorse, to have all these 30 jobs on ESPN. And, I don't like my money on the sidelines. You need to be the workhorse. You need to have, the 10 TV shows, the 3 podcasts, you need to be on ESPN 24/7. And I don't want you to take time off to talk about mental health. Like, that's not, what we're paying you to do. So what's wrong with you? We gave you $35 million in a car. Like, why are you worried about mental health? Why are you worried about social justice when you have all the justice? Like, quote unquote, don't you have enough? And, essentially he said that they created a monster in Stephen A. Smith, in that all Stephen A. Smith cares about at this point is how much money he can make. How much, is the check going to be? How much more can he get? And he's willing to do and say anything as long as the checks keep rolling in and they keep getting bigger and bigger for him. And so, Kwame also reiterated how 99% of Americans cannot take the stand that Kyrie took because they cannot afford to take the stand that Kyrie Irving took. And, he said we're heading into a place where a lot of things are going to be quote unquote mind control, that there's going to be quote unquote control over, people and control over company policies. But Kwame said it's not going to be him. He is not going to be subscribing to any of that. And so also, basically Kyrie was attacked by Stephen A. Smith because Kyrie wanted to have his own personal decision on what he wanted to put in his body or didn't want to put in his body. And it's at the point now where people basically have to get down or lay down, where you have to get along or go along, which is something that Kwame always says, or don't deserve to eat, essentially. And, he was also coming back to, his days when he played in the NBA, how coaches would tell you, oh, it's not a mandatory practice, but really deep down, if you're not getting the playing time, you really need to be at this, voluntary practice, because you need to improve. Because if you don't see yourself and you're still sitting on the bench and you're not getting any PT and you don't show up for any of these quote unquote voluntary sessions that are not mandatory, then you've basically have given the incentive to the coaches to not play you, to potentially suspend you, to potentially, take away your game checks and things of that nature, and, have all this discipline. So, people will say we're quote unquote free, but there's stipulations to the freedom. And, Kwame basically was saying, how can you say that somebody's free, but then there's, all of these, roadblocks and factors that have to be followed in order to quote unquote be free. But if you're free, everything should, you should be able to live freely as you want and as you please. So, we are at the point now where, you can't disagree anymore, because if you do, you risk losing your job. You risk losing, you being suspended or being fined, or somehow your money's being affected if you're, too outspoken, or you want to, speak or do something that directly, impacts you, that you want to make your own decisions on what to do. Like in the case of Kyrie, him making the decision on what he was or what he wasn't going to put into his body. And so, he said it's getting to the point now, Kwame said, that everything now is about, you have to be in some sort of a group. And the going along and getting along, quote unquote, just to join the groups. So, and he's like, which group are we going to join? And he's like, I don't even know if I'm going to join a group because this is crazy. But, that was kind of the gist of what he was saying, that essentially Stephen A. Smith has a lot of power and influence in that, every time he's saying something negative about these Black players, next thing you know, other people jump on the bandwagon, other sports shows, other networks, certain quotes, certain things that he says start to go viral. And then next thing you know, players either out of the league or getting lowballed on a future contract, or, their playing times getting diminished because of something Stephen A. Smith said. Even if it's not true, the public likeness and image and all of that is affected negatively just by those particular comments. And essentially Stephen A. Smith is not going to back down from that, because he knows he's reading from a script, because he's getting those checks. So he'll do and say anything, even if it means disrespecting all of the Black NBA players, to uplift, the white players and never go hard on them. As long as he, the check clears, he's still going to conduct himself this way. And so that's what he was essentially, trying to get at. And how, the white executives basically look at, Stephen A. as their little puppet to, do and say anything that they want him to, because they know that he, at the end of the day, cares more about his money than his integrity and his, and being, a real legit person or whatever. So that was like the main meat of what was going on with Kwame Brown. I had started following Kwame Brown back when he exposed Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson with that whole drama and exposed how they were being like behind the scenes and everything else. And it's just been hilarious ever since. So, yeah, this is just another reaction that I have to one of his videos. If this is your first time viewing my channel, thank you so much for tuning in. I am glad for you to view my videos and hope you check out some more of my previous videos as well. If this is your second, third, or fourth time on this channel, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you so much for your support. I love interacting with each and every one of you. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Please hit the notification bell so that you are alerted the moment that I post new content, so that way you can immediately tune in to what the next thing I'm talking about. So that is all that I have. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe again. And I will talk to you guys again soon. Happy holidays.